I 100% agree with you.
My son just completed 90 days of treatment and is currently in IOP. Since coming home, he's anxious and started vaping. He's also sending inappropriate messages to girls. He's passing drug tests. But here goes the dad situation, but it's the kid. And, the mom is like, am I overthinking this? Is like, obviously he's changing. I know he's changing the way he feels because he's restless, irritable. I mean, he's just miserable. He probably hates whatever. And so, yeah, he may not be, it goes back to the principles. He may not be doing drugs or alcohol, but he's looking for every avenue to change the way he feels. And more often than not, if I had to guess, it's only going to be a matter of time.
Well, yeah. Okay. So a couple of different things here. I agree with you, by the way. First things first. Okay. So he did 90 days. Why isn't he in a sober living going to IOP? He should not be living at home. That's no way. And the reason why is he needs to be surrounded in his community of people that are doing the same thing. So, and he's back at home, sort of following back. And the other question I have is, okay, he went to 90 days. What did you do?
Mm-hmm.
It sounds to me like you're still monitoring him and hovering over him, and that's not your job, And okay, so that's two things. So he's 90 days sober and he's vaping and you say he's sending inappropriate stuff to girls, and I don't disbelieve you at all. And he's anxious. Well, most people at 90 days sober are incredibly anxious, are very much into vaping or smoking cigarettes or energy drinks, and are pretty much inappropriate with the opposite sex, which is why we keep them away from each other for so long. That's just. I'm not surprised by any of this.
You're telling me we don't turn into saints after 90 days?
No, it's about 9 months or a year.
For me, it was like 3 years. But anyway, enough about me.
Yeah, no, my sponsor after like 90 days, he's like, no dating, and I'm like, oh, I got some bad news for you. That's already happened. It's already come. That cow left the barn, Chief.
Jeez.
And I would say seriously consider putting him in sober living. Number one. Number two, here's the questions I have for you. What does your therapist say? What does your sponsor say? Mom, not kid, mom. And if you don't have an answer to both those, guess what I'm going to say? You need to find a therapist that understands codependency, and you need to get involved in a 12-step program that's going to help you address your need to control him and sort of get into his business. So we got a message from the amazing Jordan Spector.
Oh, that's whatever. Let's move on.
Well, no, we got to congratulate him on the birth of his child.
You can do that. We're just not going to put up the USC stuff. What? Let you guys have your moments.
Yeah, right on, baby. Heisman, baby. But congratulations. That's great. That's awesome. And Jordan is a great guy. Think the world of him. We're so happy for him. So excited with him.
Another young adult program that I have a feeling would not do 90 days and then send them back home.
No. Jordan.
I would like to believe that Pace wouldn't do that. We got to start holding the mirror up to the facilities too. Is how are these facilities not like? No, he's not coming home. Sorry, But anyway,
no.
My daughter, 22 years old, has struggled with drugs for the last 3-4 years. She recently told my husband and I that the drug issues are due to her belief that she feels her authentic gender is male.
Okay, and that's fine. Trust me, I'm all about supporting the LGBTQ. I know I'm probably missing a couple there. I think IA or whatever it is, but I support them 100% on board. Whatever it is you need to figure it out.
Now, I will say that what I didn't put in this, and it kind of goes into what we're talking about. They're saying, and this may be parents kind of a little overwhelmed. They're saying that like when she says this, she's normally very high and delusional on on drugs. And so the mom was asking, I can only put so much. The mom was, I'm glad I'm saying this because there's more to it. The mom's asking as to how to deal with this when, is this just a drug related or is this just an excuse?
No problem.
Fill in the blank. That's, this one's all you. So
yeah, I got this, no problem.
Yeah.
So here's the answer. And it's always first things first. Got to get her sober. Once we get her sober, then we can sort out the mental health. We can sort out the gender. We can sort out the whole thing. But when somebody's high or actively using, they really need, they're all over the place emotionally. It's interesting that people in my industry, right, the clinical people will say, well, I work with this guy and he's an alcoholic or maybe a drug addict and he's a narcissist and he's bipolar. I'm like, okay, so I want to be really clear with you. When I was actively using drugs and alcohol, I looked like a narcissist. I looked like I was bipolar. I looked like fill in the blank because I was riding this drug and alcohol roller coaster. There was no, and so it's critical to understand that once we get somebody into a space where we remove the drugs and the alcohol and really start helping them on their mental health issues and going after all the other stuff that's up in their head, because who knows, maybe that's where she's at and that's where he or she is at, or they, and that's perfectly okay. But we have to address, people ask me this all, well, I think he's really got a dual problem or it's a mental health issue. I'm like, okay, I agree with you, but we got to get rid of the drugs and the alcohol first. And once we get that handled, then we can dig in and find out where the stuff is that we really got to go after. And that's kind of the answer to the question. Don't get caught up in the gender identity issue as, we got to chase that down the street. It is incredibly important and it's incredibly significant, and I'm 1000% with you, but you got to get her sober first. And then we can go there. And there's places that specialize in that.
Amen. Absolutely. Reach out to us and we can point you in the right direction.
Happy to do it. Completely support it.
My brother has overdosed 4 to 5 times in the past 2 years. The last time we were told he wasn't going to live. My parents blamed themselves for not stepping in and helping, yet he pulled through and went right back to old way of believing. So ultimately, the finish to this whole question is the parents thinking that he wasn't going to start playing the blame game. We should have stepped in. We should have stepped in treatment. Gets out of the hospital and is going right back to a way of thinking. And mom and dad are turning that delusional eye and just going, oh, I'm so glad you made it through. And this other brother is like, hey, this is what I deal with on a constant basis. I've got 2 other brothers, went through family programs, completely understand like their point of views. Like, Jay, mom and dad, you spent all your time and energy on Jay. Obviously he needed it, but here it is. Like, in that crisis, they want to fix. He pulls through, and then, they don't fall through. Like,
right? No, I get it, and the thing here too is a couple of things. One, I'm glad that he's alive. I'm glad that he survived, but you have to take action. And the idea that they blame themselves for not stepping in and helping. I want to ask. I mean, I would love to have this family with me be like, he's overdosed 4 or 5 times. What exactly could you do to step in and help? How are you going to stop him? Are you guys going to take rotations 24 hours a day and follow him around? And that's just not realistic. It's not. You can't do that. What you can do is say, look, man, we love you, and we want you to get help, and we're willing to get you help, offer you help, and bring you help. But if you're going to choose not to get help, you're going to die, and there's nothing we can do. Now, I would say that given someone who's obviously using drugs that he overdoses on a regular basis, I would bring in an interventionist like Jay and give him you're going to treatment. And I would make it a long-term treatment program, not a short-term program, 30, 60, 90. I'm talking 6 months to a year. And
now, what, as a brother though, like he's fed up with kicking mom and dad into action. Is there anything we can provide?
Yeah, Yeah.
as the brother, because it sounds like mom and dad just grateful, like he's still alive, and then doesn't step in, and the brother's just wants to fight for his brother, B knows the ending is, if we don't step in, and C is probably not the one that's going to be like, all right, I'm sending you to treatment. No, mom and dad will have to do that.
Sure, totally understand. And the truth is, hold on. Oh. The truth is that
Get a dog.
That the brother can be the advocate. The brother can gather the family. This happens all the time with me. Yeah. It's not always mom, dad, husband, or wife that comes to me. It can be brother, sister, child that comes to me and says, "Hey, we need help," and bring mom and dad to the conversation and say, he's going to die, and you guys are going to blame yourself. And we have to make a change in the system. It's not about changing the guy. It's about changing the family system and the way the family system operates and addresses the guy. And so that's the change that has to happen. And the brother can be the advocate for that change. That's the answer.
All right, last one. Basically, you'll get the same kick. We've held boundaries like you suggested, except my son agreed to helping around the house, pays rent to us, buys his own food, yet continues to drink. So what basically is they held this boundary, and he's like, I will follow through on doing my part of the deal, but I'm not willing to stop drinking. I know you'll say that not drinking is a deal breaker, but so you got mom and dad that, you have the 2 or 3, like he's showing up as an active family member, he's coming to family dinners, he's paying rent, he's buying, refusing to stop drinking. The mom's basically saying, like, there's been no issues, but it's only a matter of time because experience has told me that he can drink drink like a gentleman for a little while, but we all know that big time. So this mom is saying, like, I think I know the answer, that, held the boundary about not drinking or move out. Like it says here, he's paying rent, buying his own food, like why is this guy insisting on staying at home was my question. But anyway.
Yeah, I mean, why would he? I mean, honestly, he's got a sweet deal. He probably pays nominal rent. I mean, let's be honest. I don't think that this guy is, paying $1,000 a month in rent, and so he's probably paying a nominal rent. Does the dishes, but I mean, he's drinking. I mean, what I always tell the families like this: if I came to live with you and I behaved like that, what would you do? They say, I ask you to leave. Da-da. It's time for him to hit the road. And you got to remember, from his perspective, why should I change? There's no impetus to change. There's no consequences for my actions. So you just need to say, hey, we really appreciate what you've done, but we told you this was the piece. By the way, that's the first part. If he doesn't complete the first part, the second and the third part don't matter.
I just love. I don't label anyone an alcoholic, but I just love how I can just see this conversation happening. Here's what we want you to do. And then him saying, like, I agree with 2/3 of that. I'm refused to stop drinking, but I will be a model. I mean, like, and the mom and dad being like, I mean, I can live with that. And then he got what he wanted, a sweet deal, and continue to drink. Like,
2 out of 3.
We are creative. Right? We're cunning. We're baffling. Anyway. Yeah, I just love it. I love people say, do you ever get worn out? And it's stuff like this that I laugh when I hang up the phone, and I scream sometimes. But I mean, to be the guy on the other end, because these families are desperate, and in the middle, when you're drowning, you kind of lose your mind. And so that's what I always tell myself. I mean, sometimes you have to go 101 basic, like, hey, and every time they've said, I know what you're going to say. More often than not, it's what I'm going to say. So,
I mean, it's simple. It's like, the number one thing is drugs and alcohol. It's not the number 3 thing. It's the number 1 thing, and so, I get people all the time that are like, well, he's doing well in school. I'm like, I don't care. He's drunk or he's high. You got to address that. You know, I mean, that's why we're here. That's the stem of all the issues. And so we gotta take that first. And I understand where they're coming from. They're like, you know, this is an eternal pain for them. And they're just like, so, you know, it's gotten better, but so let's go all the way.
Yeah, my mom and dad were like it. And so I have a soft spot. But sooner or later, they stepped in and said, all right, enough's enough. They started talking to the Kevin Petersens of the world and said, all right, stop. And then my life changed. So,
and that's the answer right there.
You know? Exactly. You know, exactly. I've, like you always say, I think it's you, like when people step in and say, hey, here's, you know, and you need to change, more often than not, people change, or at least know, you know, when you got to put the boundary in and you got to hold it, and it's got to be no drugs and alcohol. It's not like only drink on the weekends or only drink beer, or, I mean, like, because we'll do everything. But once we put an end to the drinking and drugging, our solution, I've never come across an addict that said, like, well, life stayed normal. Like, once either they're kicked out, boundaries held, they reach out to me, I need help, you know. But it's always putting the boundary and keeping it. And drugs and alcohol have to be number one. You can't do 2 and 3 right. So
I'm saying, you know, that's the deal. And I get it. They're fighting the battle and they're trying. So props to them for making progress. You know, what's one of those classic 2 steps forward, 1 step back. Take that next step and don't be afraid, you know.
Keep writing, keep watching, keep clicking, you know, let us know. I love, we got one that said they've been watching for a couple of weeks. So keep doing it. Would love to hear from you. Keep the questions, even if it's the same answer, even if you know what the answer is going to be, write in anyway. You never know. So Kevin, always a pleasure. Is that Bert? Is that Bert?
That's Bert.
He's looks like he overate at Thanksgiving.
Well, no, what are you talking? No, he's fine. He's good.
He was me Thursday night, so I'll just say that.
This is kind of how he spends most of his day, actually. Just like,
all right, I'll see you next week, Kevin.
All right, brother. Talk to you later.